Hey there, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please leave some love or share your thoughts below in the comments. And now, let's get started. Enjoy the show.
My name's Mark McCulloch, and I'm a brand guy, mainly in food and drink, and this is my Smack episode.
Hey Smack fans, this is Philip Ibrahim. Welcome to another episode. Today I spoke to Mark McCulloch, the CEO of Supersonic and founder of Hospitality Rising. He explained to me why he doesn't like the phrase, "let me pick your brain," how he applied at Yo Sushi with a note saying, "help me, I was kidnapped by bankers," and what his favorite pickup line is. Enjoy the show. Hey Mark, welcome to the show. I'm super happy to have you. That's amazing for me. And I have to say, it's it's rare that I do not know the person physically before I interview them. So this time I really had to block parts in my agenda to at least come to know you a bit better. So that's the first thing. You need to come to Berlin and catch up on that. We have to have a beer together, because yesterday when I did the preparation, I realized I do not need a long preparation here, because you're an amazing person, super inspirational. So I wrote down you're the icon of branding and creating brands. So when I look in your 150-year-old history of doing brands and making brands bigger and better, I was so stoked. That was amazing. So super thrilled to have you on the show, and already saying you have to come to Berlin for a 1 or 2 beer. Let's see, probably we'll switch to gin tonic as well, but that just as a pre-up. So happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I would love to go to Berlin. I've never been, so I would
That is a
love
joke.
to go.
That is
No.
a joke.
Nope.
How can people not come to Berlin? So this is clearly a thing we have to change. Yeah, whatever you do.
Yeah, I'll go to Gatwick now. It's only 40 minutes away. I can get a flight. But well, weirdly, I did a bit of work in Hamburg for a while with Barclaycard, and then been to Munich many times. But that's really been about it. So it really is, because I think Berlin would be my vibe. I think I would be very happy in Berlin. So yeah.
Coming out of a preparation to come to know you a bit better, I can confirm that it will be your vibe, and I think Berlin will like you as well. So both, that's a two-way thing. Hey Mark, I know one of the things that was really striking out for me, I had to open page over page to come to the bottom of your career, because you have been doing so much things already. Probably it would be amazing if you give us a short overview of not only the names that you dropped already, Barclaycard, which is not a small player, I would assume, but as well, how did you enter or ending up doing something with brands, and then later on we're going to talk on what you're doing now, because I think this is fucking awesome, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could take 4 hours telling you the whole thing, but a quick story really is that just university, I did mechanical engineering, and it was for a year, and then I found booze and music and didn't like going to double math. So I quit that, and I always loved marketing because I worked in a record store when I was a kid. And I was always fascinated how a record would be released and then would go to number one and all that, how that would all work. So I wanted to do music marketing, but one of my old teachers came in to pick up his jazz records and said, don't do music marketing, do marketing, and then you can do whichever type of marketing you want, whether it's Wonder Bras or cars or whatever. So I was like,
Did you do Wonder Bras?
No, unfortunately not.
Is that on your list to do for the future?
Yeah, it inspired me many times, but no. So that's a bit of a 90s reference. And then, just very quickly, I got my first job in the music magazines. So I worked for NME and Loaded magazine and all that, and did the student marketing for them, which I loved. And then I went into insurance. I moved back to Glasgow from London. And it was really just because there isn't a lot of marketing jobs really in Scotland that are really that interested. That's why I moved. So London first, then back to Glasgow. And then my wife at the time was moving to a place called Milton Keynes, which is outside of London. So not the most exciting place in the world, but
I know it. Why
You
do I know
do?
it? Yes, because I think there is a famous darts player coming from Milton Keynes, but I don't remember who. I think something is ringing a bell there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, lots of roundabouts, lots of concrete. It was sort of seen as a futuristic city. So it's mapped out in a grid system like, New York or
Mhm.
Glasgow's in a grid system. So yeah, and the whole thing is you can't get lost because every road's numbered. So it's, if you went too far, you just go backwards. So it's fairly simple. So anyway, so I moved there and then I got my big break really, which was with lastminute.com. So back in the day, it was like working for Facebook or Google. It was like the coolest.com, Brent and Martha that started it. So it's basically a everything to do at the last minute site. So,
Mm.
you can go on holiday, get a theatre ticket,
Yeah,
buy some,
I
you
know,
know.
we know them, or we know them, the hospitality industry in lastminute.com, but that was basically your first touch with the industry, right? Or or was
Yeah.
that, yeah.
No, I think you're right. I've never thought about that. I think it was because I marketed all the non-holiday stuff,
Hmm.
and part of that was restaurant booking. So we had a restaurant booking. It was the first restaurant booking system in the UK anyway, ever.
Lastminute.com, or which one?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't
yeah.
know
The
that.
lastminute.com's reservation restaurant bookings was really the first one that was out there in the UK,
When
and
was that? When was that time wise?
99,
1999.
98, 99.
Okay. Crazy.
So it was certainly one of the first anyway. So yeah, and it was just rock and roll. And basically what happened was, you just felt like a celebrity. You were able to just get into parties that no one else could, and gigs that no one else could, and backstage passes, and like I was like 25 or something, right? And basically what Brent and Martha did, who were also very young at the time, still are pretty young for what they've done. They hired just a bunch of bright sparks, not and just let them do whatever you wanted, and they would back you. And I'm not saying it was unfocused at all, but because we all cared, and it was the type of place that at 9 o'clock in the evening, it was such a gang. We were such a gang, and it was like I was maybe putting my jacket on to go home. I had like an hour and a half to get home or whatever, and you would see your colleague was stuck with something and you
Mm.
would just go, jack it off, right, mate?
How can I
What's
help
going
you?
on?
Nice.
And it was everyone had everyone's back, and we loved it. We still love it. It's such a strong um, alumni or fraternity. Like we're all
Mhm.
linked, and it's not. You hear about trauma bonding, bonds people from
Yeah.
work. This is the absolute opposite. This is joy bonding or something. Like we there's a deep, deep, deep friendship and respect with everyone that we worked with. It's amazing. It's so cool to have that. So yeah, so I love that. Then I just came to the end of my time there. A new boss came in. I was head of brand sort of for the world, and his view, which I don't think is a bad view, was that
Mm.
there shouldn't be a head of brand. It's everyone's responsibility to live the brand, and I get that.
Yeah.
So I think there was a little bit of I was sort of one of the biggest guys in the prison yard, and he maybe
Mm.
wanted to, punch me on the nose to see what happened. So yeah, I was sad to leave. I was pretty upset, to be honest. I was really gutted. So anyway, left. It's probably about time though. Like it's 4 or 5 years. That was enough. And
Mm.
then I
Yeah,
went to
sometimes it's as well
Barclaycard.
the end of the development thing. Sometimes the creativity.
Yeah.
When you look back at it, so probably you can
Mm.
say, "Hey, leaping for something new might help," and especially looking in your career, which was
Yeah,
clearly the case then.
yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
No, I have to say, he did me a huge favour, and I don't blame him. I think actually it was good for me because I'd
Mm.
probably still be there now, and a bit, sort of stagnant. So then I looked at my CV and I realised I needed some grown-up experience, right? Because I'd been music mags, digital agencies, obviously last minute, blah blah blah, and I was like, do you know what? I probably need to be a grown-up for a bit. So I went to Barclaycard, where it was a complete culture shock for me, and I learned loads. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I think I had some real mental health struggles there too because
Mm.
I could at lastminute.com you were straight into the founders and they let you do what you want. When you go into a huge organisation and there's 7 people who are basically covering their own arse to keep in their job between you and the big boss. It's very, very, very frustrating for someone like me. And also, things don't move quickly, and I'm used to things happening rapid, you know. So that was a good learning experience. And my mentor, a guy called Robert Bean, who's just been such a father figure to me over the years, he said to me, look, it's just like you eating your greens, you know, your vegetables. He's just like, you won't enjoy it, but you'll feel better for it. So he was right. So I lasted about a year there. I was really burnt out. There was a huge employee engagement project across the world, and it was pretty taxing. And I personally had to deliver like 180 sessions to like all of the staff like 3 times a day, and you're kind of on show like jazz hands, you know. So that was tough, you know. And then I got into hospitality. So I found a job from Yo Sushi, who I adored as a brand anyway, and I love sushi. And I wrote them a ransom note to stand out when I applied, as if it was you know, I was kidnapped by Barclaycard, right? So wrote them this ransom note, and I just said, look, I've been kidnapped by a bunch of bankers. Please help, you know. And anyway, as luck would have it, I was at Hyde Park in London watching, you know, the Britpop band Blur.
Yep, of course, Blur.
Yeah. So it's just my accent
Kid of the
sometimes.
90s, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I was watching Blur in Hyde Park, and I'd had a few drinks, being Scottish, and I got a call in the middle of the gig going, the boss wants to see you tomorrow. And I was like, oh God, you know, I'm pretty super up, and you know. But anyway, so yes, so did that, got the job. It was brilliant, and my brief was, and my boss there, Robin, was so amazing and inspiring, and he just said, make us cool again. That was a brief.
Yeah, that's a good brief. That's a good brief before Trump. So he stole it from Yo Sushi. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
I'm not putting that on my CV. So that was. Can you just imagine him eating sushi with a knife and fork, can't you? I mean, that was amazing. 2-year ride, gave it everything. I gave it my absolute.
Is that a
all.
British company, Yo Sushi? Is that that was one of the things? Yeah, because
it was. Yeah, I think it's owned by a Canadian group called Snowfox now. But back then it was like we had some private equity from Argentinian sort of beer family called Kilvest. Yeah. They were very supportive and really good. But my job really was to make sure we made sales, we had brand love, which is sort of intangible.
It's funny because I have the logo, and the whole appearance of Yo Sushi is something that is very sticky. So whatever, but I'm not sure whether it's your concept or not. But I do know Yo Sushi as one of the brands not being really. It is a brand that is existing in Germany as well, but it's.
Is it?
I think I saw it, or at least similar brands like this. Yeah, for sure. They're delivering as well. Yeah.
No, the logo wasn't me at all. I just came in after all that, but it was an amazing design company called Intro, and they used to do like Primal Scream's record covers and Oasis and Jamiroquai.
So back you were at the music industry, huh?
Yeah.
So you clicked immediately.
Yeah. And the funniest thing they said to me was Oasis split up, right? And I said, God, that's bad, isn't it? And they went, no, we've got 2 clients now. No, Alium. And I was just like, yeah, you know, it was quite funny. But that was Yo Sushi's trick, I think. And Robin, actually down to Robin, which was he didn't hire hospitality people, right? He hired people because we knew different things. We knew, you know, so you would hire people from fashion or, you know, digital or music or, and the roots of Yo Sushi were rock and roll.
Different vision on the things as well. Sometimes we're in our own bubble. Now you're so long in the hospitality industry, you see that we're very blindsided. So it's a smart move to have people from outside. I think it's a great.
Yeah, and then super quickly after that, I was just kind of burnt out again. I tend to do that. I'm like a real sort of love bomber, like in the dating sense. Like I'll just like absolutely give everyone everything, but eventually I usually fall over. So I did that. Then I went to a music website, which was Peter Gabriel from Genesis. It was his music website called V7. and it was just a consultancy role for like 6 months. We then sold it to Tesco, and it was meant to be like this great Spotify competitor, but Spotify don't really even seem to care about making money. They're just about growth. So they just slammed this company so much better. So did that, and then the last thing was I started an agency called Spectacular Marketing, and it's because I wear glasses and I was the spectacles thing, so I thought that was kind of cool. And there's a DJ in the UK called Chris Evans. He's like really, really famous over here. And he was my broadcasting hero, really. And his logo was his specs. He had really cool sort of Michael Caine sort of specs. So I nicked that slightly, so hopefully I don't get sued. But I started that for 1 week, and then a job came up with Pret a Manger, and I was like, I've got to go for this. And I think 138 people went for it, I think. And I was so lucky to get it, and with Pret, like, it's every bit as lovely on the inside as it is on the outside, as you would expect. But it's such a joy to work in a place like that. But I learned so many.
How many branches did they have? As just from a size, I mean, Pret a Manger is everywhere. I would say wherever I am in the UK. But how big was it back then?
Like 350, 400 at the time.
Wow, that's a big thing, huh?
Yeah, I don't know numbers now because they had to close and move and stuff after the pandemic. America was a big thing when I was there too. They were really focusing on America. Hong Kong was going brilliantly. They were just about to open in China. They did a cool thing where they opened in France, which was kind of funny, as if Yo Sushi would open in Tokyo, Pret going to France was quite funny. Or quite bold. I mean, not funny, it was quite bold. But yeah, so loved that. But it was only a year's contract, and I had the chance to stay on. But I just thought, yeah. And I read a book, it was a picture book really, called Life is Happy or something, I can't remember. But Life is Good, Life is Good. It's like a little kind of hippie brand that does like t-shirts. But one of the pages in that says, you'll never be a success living someone else's dream. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm working really hard to make other people happy and wealthy. That doesn't really work. So then that was me, quit. And then I started We Are Spectacular with two great friends who were designers back at lastminute.com. And we started We Are Spectacular. We had an office just off Oxford Street in London. We ended up about 11 full-time and sort of 9 freelancers, so like 20 people. We had 25 live clients at one point, and we grew it from nothing to some like 1.2 million a year. It was great, but then I quit. I just quit. It was just, we were having a few differences, and I totally understood why.
If you're a wildcat in your own head, sometimes you get at a moment where in a company you realize that other agendas might not always be your agendas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just musical differences, and I get it, But I think it was things like, I was off, dicking about doing podcasts and speaking, and they were a bit like, well, we need you here in the office to help, and we're not really seeing you, and you're doing your own thing. But I would always say, well, like, work and clients don't just knock the front door, right? You have to go out and get them. And I learned a great thing from a guy called Rory Sutherland from Ogilvy. He's like one of the most famous marketing behavioral scientist people in the world. And he said it's all about increasing your sort of area, So, just that volume. So always just say yes to most things, because every one person you meet, like I've met you two today, right? Something will happen, right? So even if it is just a beer, but something good's going to come of this, right? So it was really about increasing your area, and I thought that was such a great thing. So that's the way I view it. Anyway, so I left the company, and leaving your own agency isn't really a well-trodden path, right? So I'm Googling, how do you leave your own agency? And there's like literally no examples. So I'm just going, oh, am I doing the right thing? So I went to a Buddhist retreat for a little while, just through a friend in Wales. He's a Buddhist master, and I just went and did a lot of cliched thinking and finding yourself. And then I just came back and just said, look, I can't do this anymore. And then and I think it's the whole way that if I had a restaurant, I could only have like one or two and I'd have to be hands on. I couldn't have a big chain. So I realized that I just like doing the work. And actually, I don't like managing people. And I'm a terrible, terrible delegator. Terrible.
Which makes your life horrible because you usually have a lot on your plate because
yeah.
you're not delegating. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't trust anyone, right?
Yeah.
I just like, I mean, that's not true. There's a few people in my life that are really, in work life that are really
Yeah, but I
trust.
mean, I know what you mean. It takes a while until you think, hey, they do the job in a way that I
Yeah,
can put my signature under it, or I
yeah,
just feel that this is part of what I do.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
big. By the way, it's a very, very for those listening on the way in a career when you progress from being somebody who works for somebody into somebody who's leading or inspiring people. You will always have this little moment where you realize, hey, I have so much. I'm so. Perfect in, or I try to be so perfect in what I do that sometimes it's hard for other people to fill up that gap towards
yeah,
that. And very often that's the reason why in leadership there are people like you, which is amazing if you can find that out, where they say, hey, I want to inspire people, but I do not want them to do a job that I see needs my signature or needs my
yeah,
face on it, something like that. So I
yeah,
think it's a very, very important point in parts of self-reflection, especially when you're younger. So whenever that
yeah.
comes, accept it.
Well,
And
I mean, in my sort of line of work, I've only got two things, right?
mm,
One is my brain and my ideas, and you're only as good as your last idea. So it's a real trigger phrase for me when I get daily LinkedIn messages. Can I show you a product? Can I take your coffee? Can I buy you a meal to do this? Can I? And the trigger phrase is, can I pick your brains? And you go, well, not really, because it's like, it's all I've got, right? So, you wouldn't take your car to the mechanic and go, could you just, you know, have a go and do
yeah,
that for free, please? And it's not that you don't want to help people. Of course, you absolutely want to help people. But also, it's when like big venture capitalist companies go,
yeah,
oh, can we go for a coffee? And I'll ask you, and you're like, and it's people that have, teased you all along, So I think there's that. And then I think the only other thing I've got is reputation, right? And
mm,
I'll die protecting that at all costs. And it goes back to school actually, because there was a bit of a bully in our class. And sometimes if you maybe had been off for the day or over a weekend, something would go on that people were talking about you, and you would come back and basically the whole group had fallen out with you, right?
mm,
So, that was a good thing because it meant I made friends with the girls at school and the nerds, and so I
hmm
kind of had areas I was quite agile to go around. But I've still got that now, and I'll not give people the chance to say anything bad about me ever, which then drives me to over service and do the best job I ever. Because all I ever want them to say is, he's the best I ever hired.
mm.
Or if it's a speaking gig, he was speaking of the day. So I'm just so driven to
Yeah.
never give everyone an inch to go, that guy isn't all that.
I have
So
I have
yeah,
to I have to say I really that I mean I've in the preparation I saw a presentation that you give and I was very jealous. It was I think the hospitality in 2022. It is on YouTube, and
okay.
I it's 55 minutes long. I could not sit still for 55 minutes yesterday, but I marked it because I really said I started the first pages and I really liked the way you speak in and how what you said and what you showed was like aligned. So that was really, really amazing. So I get that point fully. But I think sometimes, especially as you said before, you have to like people, right? In especially in our
Mm,
industry, in the hospitality industry in particular, is an industry of people. There's always so many stakeholders involved. Those delivering, those producing, those cleaning, those buying, those
mm,
whatever, those helping. So it's sometimes probably a bit how you say you stand in the middle between hey, I want and have to help and have to like them, but at the
Mm.
same time, I want them to use their brain themselves to come up with a solution or an idea. And I figure this is as well in any role in my world the same. Sometimes a bit tricky and not helpful. I don't know how many
Yeah.
times people come up to me and have a good application that they want me to sell to my guests, and I say,
Mm.
hey, if you do sales, there has to be money. So there has to be a budget plan. And you say, how much is that money? How much are you paying me to sell your app? And not
Yeah.
me, those people at the ground. So sometimes
Yeah.
I really understand it can be taken very harsh, but yeah, at the end, it's a business. And I do understand what you say. Super
Well,
cool.
I think also it's on the approach, right? And you know,
Mhm.
I really do still love Gary Vaynerchuk, and he talks about it a lot, where he's like, don't be the douchebag at the hotel bar where you just go up to another sexy man, sexy woman, whatever, and you go up and you go, you know, will you go to bed with me? You know, it's just like the douchebag move, right? So, you know, and you get that all the time, and it's, you don't even get a how are you? You know, you just get someone you've never met before. There's no value exchange, there's no
Yeah.
credit, there's no, and it's like, look, at least take me out for dinner first. You
And
know,
the
I'm
problem
like,
is, it
let's
still
go on
works.
a date.
The main problem is there is still so many people that not only being the douchebag to do the move, but they're
Yeah.
doing it for a reason, and there is a success rate in that. There must be a success rate in that because you're not
Oh
made to
yeah.
get baskets all the time. So
Well,
that's the only way.
just while we're talking about it, it's really funny. I had a friend years ago at school. He's an older guy, and he was in the basketball team, and he had like big sort of curtains, you know, the hair coming down like
Yeah.
this, and he had and he had quite a big nose, but he wasn't a bad looking guy. But he would at nightclubs. It was such a good move. He would go up to women and go, This was his opening line. This was his opening line. You're as ugly as me. Um, if you if you haven't found anyone by the end of the night, I'll meet you outside. And invariably, he would go home with someone every time.
Hey, I tell you an experience of my world. You know, I'm not good on Tinder because I see something on a picture I don't like, so I will not swipe
Mm,
because I'm always in my head. It's like one day I'm gonna stand in a line of a supermarket and that person that is there that I don't like because she has a horse on her picture or because it's an arty or black and white picture. She's standing in line. She said, "Hey, that's the guy who liked me that I never liked back." In my brain, this is so stuck. I cannot accept that. I only want to like people that I really think they are a match, 100% match. So, but
yeah,
obviously, when I tried Tinder when it came up, it never worked for me because I was there's one in 100 that I said, oh, that one is a decent one. So I
yeah,
never really swiped into a like situation, which is obviously like in mathematics, the less you like, the less the quota
yeah,
of people liking you.
yeah.
So I'm driving my car from Stuttgart to Berlin with a couple of my friends. All of it's the younger brother of a good friend of mine. So 10, 15 years younger. And the three of them are sitting in the car like this and just swiping in one direction. They're all swiping. Say, what the goddamn
What?
mind?
They're swiping right?
I don't know which is the direction where you accept.
Right?
Yeah, so they're swiping to accept that they like them. They don't even look at the picture. I said to the boys, what are you doing? I said, oh, we're Tindering. I said, but you don't even look at the picture. You don't look at the profile. You don't know who you like. You don't know what that
No.
is. He said, no, that's not how Tinder works. I said,
Oh
how? How
God.
does it work? He said, I'm liking all of them. And from those who like me back, the best looking one, that is the one I'm going to date. And I said, that's the reason why it's not working for me.
It's an analytical way to do it. It's based on data, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in the online dating world at the moment, and yeah, it's a wild west out there.
It's not my world, I have to say. I'm a live guy. Hey, but Mark, even though I would touch on the dating parts probably for another hour, because I'm probably able to learn a lot about pickup lines. I like the one with the ugly man. I'm gonna give it a try one day. Hey, then at the end of the whole, not the end, but now at the status where you are in your career, you
Mm,
decided that that's how I feel it. You want to give something back to this industry because you
mm,
created probably. For me, I'm not a UK based guy, but probably one of the most interesting and most amazing campaigns that I have seen in a long time to give back to the industry what you're doing. So the hospitality rising in the
mm,
UK. How and why did you decide that you put your whole effort into that, which is really something,
mm,
it's for me giving back. Before you start, everything that you mentioned on, or I watched the videos and went a bit through the pages. It's the same problems that we all having: staff shortage, pressure of costs, the quality of labor, the time that we have to make somebody a shining star in our industry is much shorter than it was 10 years ago. I had more time to prepare them. So what made you do this great initiative?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's outside of my day job, right? So I'm still being a CMO for companies, and I'm still being a podcaster and all these things. Because, you know, it was nice to pay the mortgage and not get chucked out and whatever. But I had this idea because it was during COVID, right? And I'd had a chat pre-COVID with Kate Nichols, who's the CEO at UK Hospitality, you know, like one of the most important people in hospitality in the UK, if not beyond. And we've got a really neat relationship. You know, she's very, very important and you know, a serious player and all that. But we have a kind of nice wee relationship, and we talk about 90s music and whatever on a Friday night.
Blur
You know, so
and Oasis. Blur
it's
and
quite cool.
Oasis. Come on.
Yeah, Manic Street Pictures a little bit, she like. But so anyway, so that's really cool. And then so I was chatting to her pre-COVID, I mean literally days before lockdowns, and we were out for lunch at a round table thing, and she basically talked about shortage of chefs. And I think it was Kate that actually mentioned, and I need to credit her for it, was in the UK, I don't know what it's like outside, but there's a really, really famous army campaign called, Be the Best. Army Be the Best. And it's like been running forever. And it's just, you know, one of the most successful recruitment campaigns ever in the world. You know, it's unbelievable. So when we were talking, it was like, we need that for hospitality. We need an Army Be the Best brand campaign, not direct applications. You know, we need to change all of these perceptions. It's not a career. I mean, obviously, there are things like it's hard work, of course, and it's physical, and, you know, but in the army adverts, they don't say that you might get shot, right? So, you know, I think you need to kind of build on the good bits and then you address the other bits. So in terms of that, then it was really just like, well, let's think about that. So then COVID was happening and we all had our own worries and all. So I wasn't busy because no one needs an expensive Scottish specky beardy guy, you know, when the restaurant's closed, right? So I was kind of sitting about, I was doing a bit of podcast, a bit of radio, and a couple of jobs for Brewdog and whatever. And then what happened was the Brewdog president, a guy called David McDowell, who's now at Stonegate, you know, one of the greatest guys ever, you know, in life. And he tweeted out, "This crisis is coming," and it was linked to a BBC article about the total staff shortage. And I still don't think it was on everyone's radar as much as it should have been. So this was the 6th of May 2021. And I just wrote to him that night and I had a rush of blood to the head. And I just went, and he's a Glasgow guy as well. And I just said, look, mate, I think we could do this together. So that's what we did. So I posted a picture of me hugging Dave, a thing we'd been at before. And I just said, this is my mate Dave. You might know him. We're about to help hospitality. Then what happened was there was a big sort of expose, I suppose, on some staff issues that Brewdog had. And I needed to chat to Dave about that and say, look, if we're going to try and do this, but you've got that going on. So then we sort of split. And I was so sad because I think he's younger than me actually, but he's like my big brother. It was just, you know, I felt really alone. I was like, oh God, I'm now holding this baby. But then I just thought, right, we need to do it. So I just thought, I've seen other companies do this where they just bring in a superstar board and it makes them look bigger than they are. Mm-hmm. So I just went round everyone I loved in the industry and just said, do you want to be part of this? And they all said yes. So the idea was, can we raise, and originally it was £5 million we wanted because the army spent 17 million and they're still saying they need 24. So 5 million's nothing even. And I know it's a lot to hospitality, but it's nothing, right? So anyway, went out and we said to everyone, pricing model is £10 per employee for a year. And then that would help, you know, small companies, big companies, you know, and level it out.
Lever the cost, yeah.
Yeah. And what that gets you is it funds the advertising and also you'll get a job site built and you'll get application starts from that. So we then ended up raising over £1 million which was great, from nothing, me and a bit of paper going, what about this? And then a huge piece of luck happened. So through some old contacts, a guy called Julian Douglas stepped forward, and he was the new president of an organisation called the IPA, so the Institute for Practitioners for Advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a scheme going, which was giving advertising time to social problems. So things like the NHS or food banks or farmers or, these social problems. And although it's a first world problem not being able to get an espresso martini at 6 o'clock at night, it's still a social problem, right? If you can't have dinner, you can't get a coffee on the way to work, you can't stay in a hotel for business, etc., etc., it's going to have a huge impact on customers, but also it's going to have a huge impact on the economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he said, we will give you £350,000 worth of free creative help from the best agencies in the world. And then it ended up being over £1 million that they gave us because they loved the project so much. So they gave us Ogilvy, who the guy that worked there had worked on all the army campaigns already. So he was our main insights guy, and he's like award-winning genius of a man. We got Rory Sullivan, best behavioural scientist in the world. And we also got a lead creative agency who was lead at Amazon, I think, but also they had Google as a client. And then we hired the UK's foremost TikTok-only agency.
Mm-hmm.
It's all 24-year-olds, it's crazy. But, and I'm the old guy, so, I would just brief them and just stand back, But TikTok was probably the most successful channel that we had.
Okay.
And I'm getting really interested in that. So that was it. So it was all up and running, all launched. It's been a year now. The stats are that we reached over half of the 18 to 30-year-olds. So we're only going for Gen Z.
Half of the 18 to 30-year-old of the UK?
We reached them with the advertising at least once. I mean, it was many more times probably, but at least once. And for £1 million, it wasn't bad.
No, it is not bad at all. Love the understatement. Love the understatement very
much. 17 million sort of interactions and reach on TikTok. 75% of people interviewed said that from seeing the advertising, it would make them more likely to work in hospitality. 46% of people could recall the campaign, like just recall it and name what it was, which was incredible. So the main metric was to change perception. So the perception metric we had going into this was 1 in 5 people would consider working in hospitality. Now it's 1 in 3. So that is a massive shift. I mean, it's not just that, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. But and also I would think that because of cost of living crisis and stuff, I think a lot of people are taking second jobs and, but anyway, so now we're at year 2. I don't think year 2 will happen like year 1. I don't think the money's there. I don't think the needs is bad. I think there's other issues. I think recruitment's
hold on. So you think that the need is not as bad anymore because of the success of the first year, or because of the industry having been recovered on that end of staff shortages and stuff? Or
yeah, I think people are recovering. I think also from what we're being told, the recruitment market's going to be softer in spring. Because there are other businesses closing, and so I think. I don't think it's everyone's number one priority anymore. I think it's more around, rates and energy and, da-da-da. So, but no, it's still there. But I think a lot of hospitality operators, because, they're time poor and stuff, it's kind of like, what's top of my list? I'll just go for that. And the reason we were trying to do what we're trying to do with Hospitality Horizon, it was meant to be a long-term perception shift campaign. And the reason I was thinking about that, and the analogy is right, is I went to see Sir Alex Ferguson speaking from Manchester United, and he said the reason Manchester United were so good was that they only ever worried about 3 years' time. They never worried about this Saturday's game. The problem in hospitality is, I understand, but so many people are fighting for their lives right now. So they are just worried about that week, that next lunchtime, you know. And also, I think you've got a lot of people in hospitality that aren't true hospitality people. And I think, they do their job in head office and, but they could really be working anywhere. And they're not really the ones that are going to care about legacy and,
Exactly. Those are, we call them the Amazon drivers. Not that it is a bad thing, but when the crisis started, they all went to Amazon, and actually they
yeah,
for them it's a job, and finding
yeah,
those passionate cherries to the cake, those
yeah,
really
yeah,
stars that we need is much difficult. That's what I meant earlier. It's much more difficult than it was before. So I think the quota is the strongest. So one of five was considering a career in the hospitality. Now it's one of three, which already
honestly.
gives us a way higher amount of people to dig in and to
Mm,
look for. So I think it's an
mm,
unbearable success, and I'm super happy to hear that. Well, happy for the colleagues. I have a couple of colleagues in the UK. Shout out to Erol in London. But I know that it's still difficult as well, related to the Brexit still, and a lot of labor forces that were doing the jobs in the hotels and restaurants most likely are those affected or more affected by the Brexit changes, going home, were forced out or had to rethink of that.
mm,
But I think the staff shortage will continue, not on the end of those who can do the job that is not really a long training. Doing a coffee,
mm,
having a passion for food, or carrying one or two plates is something. It's um it's a highly engaging job, and the better people are, the better connector. So those who can talk better are
yeah,
always more successful. But carrying a plate is something that is doable. Why we see as well Ki and robots coming in a place. That's what they can do,
yeah,
transporting from A to B. But those who are trained, like chefs, technical guys, probably those leaders who prepare the schedules and stuff like this.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
still a harder way to fight. And I have a 500 key hotel here. Finding those supervisors that I really think can create a difference when you're here has been
mm,
a task, and I hope that it's getting easier. But I think it's still a way to go. So probably when you're done in the UK, and if they're all happy with you, let them just keep on paying and do it for Germany. I'm happy to help you find it here, translated in German.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's really interesting you say that. So this is all the things we're thinking about now for year two. So what year two, we've done a bit of an extension on it for now for the people that want to stay involved, and then we're going to really sort of relaunch in April. So a couple of things happen. One is, my big thought is recruitment is broken for blue collar workers, right? So what happens, and we did research on this as well, Gen Z and Gen A coming through don't want to have a CV, and they don't want to fill out endless application forms. And the trouble is, the HR departments have had it their way for so long. But that's not this generation coming through, right? So my idea, and is that we need to change it in favour of the applicant. So what do you care what school someone went to? I mean, seriously,
I don't care.
like if they're going to be a staff and front of house, back end, that's really all I care about. I'm not talking about head office. You know, it's a psychological hire, right?
Yeah.
And also, um, I'd, the way that younger people are messaging and living their lives, and it's fast paced. Not so. My idea is that we need to create a frictionless way to apply for a job in any way that you like, under a minute, really, under 30 seconds. And with that, the HR back end is going to have to come and meet us, because we'll have all the power.
Yeah,
The
full
kids will
support.
come to us.
I'll sign off this. This is exactly, it's 100% clear, sure, and that thing that the future will bring. And I think it's one of the things we always talk about, technical revolution, but that's exactly where we need to adapt our mindset. So in the last 20 years, I was hiring people, I don't know how many, and I always followed the dream that I want to hire a person. I'm hiring a person. There's jobs where I need to have a qualification, but there's a ton of
Yeah,
jobs where I'm hiring a person. And if you cannot carry four plates, but you're amazing when dealing with customers, it's very likely that I still give you a shot. Yeah. Even though you cannot carry a plate or whatever it is. So I think that way of so our industry has been shifting from a clear market where we just sit there and wait it into a market where we have to be good looking and shiny. We have to be trained and buff. It's not that the bride is coming or the groom as we want. So that's one of the big things I see as well. So amazing to see that future in there. I really like that.
That's what people want. I mean, that's what people want, and I think it's going to be a huge success. So we're just trying to figure it out right now, like how you'd even go about it. But it's just, and also the answer isn't video, by the way. So the interesting thing is, people are doing, a million TikTok videos as we speak right now. This second. The minute you ask them to do a video, completely different story. They won't do it. So about 75-80% of people actually don't want, although they'll TikTok all day long and they'll talk into their camera and the minute you ask them to do it for real. So basically, something I learned years ago is that people receive and communicate information all different ways. Some people like reading, some people like listening, some people like watching videos. We need to be practical. So we just need to fix it so that you can apply in any way you want,
Fully agree.
So no, it's dead exciting. So yeah, and then how we fund it, commercialize it, we're going down that road at the moment. But I don't think that asking people for £10 an employee again is really going to work. And I think we have to be agile, because back to reputation, this either pauses or stops, but it doesn't fail. So either we make it better, but for us to just try and do the same, having a gut feel that it's not going to work again, then it just seems stupid. So I just want it to live on, because we've done something great as a team, I think. So it's exciting.
No, it's an amazing thing, and I love the way you portray the hospitality industry by saying, "Hey, it is hard, but it's an amazing." We always say it's the best industry in the world. You cannot go somewhere and be immediately accepted as one amongst others when you're around gastronomic or hospitality nerds, I would say. And I always tell the story when I talk to young people to tell them why our industry is the best. I always use my IKEA example. You have IKEA in the UK as well.
Yeah.
So the reason for people like me and probably you to go to IKEA is not to buy a candle. In my case, the reason for me to go to IKEA is because I want one of that shady hot dogs at the end, which is €2 something. It's the only reason for me to go there, to get 1 or 2 hot dogs. So the way IKEA works is they're going to show you the hot dog already like a mile away. And if you go usually to IKEA on a Saturday, like any other German, before soccer starts, they go to IKEA, and then you're seeing the hot dog already a mile down, but you see a million people queuing. So it takes you sometimes you just came to IKEA to check on a new wardrobe, and you ended up €300 worth of candles because somebody wanted this candle and this flower and this pot. And then you stand in line with these people, and you're waiting to get to the fucking hot dog stand, and it takes you over an hour until you're at the hot dog. So time from payment, from entering the last hall to hot dog is roughly an hour. And I always explain it to the people who want to go in industry. If you want to reduce this time from an hour down to 10 minutes, you should go to IKEA at Tuesday, 10:30. That's half an hour after they open. There is no queue. And you're at the hot dog like one of the first. You see it, you got it, you eat it. So I tell them, if you work in our industry, easy, take a Tuesday off just to go to IKEA, and nobody give a damn shit. You are amazingly quick. And that's exactly why I always say our industry is by far the best. And for those who are having hair, I mean, if you're a young person and you want to go out the weekend, usually try to get an appointment at a hairdresser Friday afternoon. It's awful. Look, I mean, I'm not an expert in hair because I don't have a lot, but barbers always sold out Friday afternoons. Imagine you can go to a barber Wednesday, 12 o'clock, in, out, and you still have full days. So I think there's a lot of things to learn. Hey, Mark, I have learned so much, but I can sit here another hour and talk, but I'm not sure if the Smack crew would appreciate that for another time. I get shots on that, but I got probably a couple of ending questions to that. And one of them is, if you're dealing with brands for such a long time, if I would ask you, what is what are the best brands that come to your mind that you would consider brands that you always look out for, commercials, advertising, or stuff that you buy because you like them? What would it be and why?
Oof. I mean, yeah, I think there's two parts to it, right? So brand is not what most people think it is, right? So it's not
Mhm.
the branding or
Yeah.
the product or whatever. A brand is a promise delivered. So that's what I always live by. So in terms of that, I think I've got the kind of fairly obvious ones like Nike, Air Jordan, New Era, all those types of things. I think McDonald's is still surprising, knowing, amazing. Michelle, who I used to work with a little bit when I mentored her CMO years ago, she was a lot younger. I mean, she became one, you could see it
Mhm.
then, she's became one of the greatest marketers in the world, leading McDonald's, right? Which is so pleasing to see. She's so talented. So I think, yeah, but then I think what I would say is you've then got softer brands that I love in the UK, where it's actually about everything. It's a million things. So in the UK, I don't know if you'll know these, but you've got Hawksmoor Steakhouse. So Hawksmoor. So there's one in New York now, Dublin, across the UK. There is also Dishoom,
Mhm.
is in my mentor Robert the brand DNA for that, which is from Bombay with Love, and it goes through every single thing that they do. And Pizza Pilgrims
Mhm.
as well. The boys there are just doing such a good job, and on the inside they're doing things with AI for staff
Mhm.
training, and they're so ahead. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's always a hard question. You've got, as I say, you've got all the obvious ones, obviously Apple and blah blah blah. But I think personally, like the brands that I would get a tattoo of, the ones that I'm so proud of, I would say, yeah, Air Jordan, Nike, just all day long,
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. Saying
you
that
know.
our CEO has a tattoo of TSH, which is the reason. Which is the reason when we changed the name from the student hotel to the social hub, it had to have the same TSH because, yeah, obviously he has it. So the task was big on that.
Got in for some. I've actually got. I've got working. Well, I don't know if I'm doing it straight. I've actually got Air Jordan trousers on at the
Nice,
moment.
nice. I have to say, I got Nike shoes on as well, so we're
Yeah,
matching
me
there.
too.
Hey, Mark, it was exceptionally great to speak to you. I really would love to reschedule another one in a year to see what you have been
Yeah,
up to in the next year. It's
in
yeah,
person.
yeah.
In
We're not
person.
waiting a year on that,
Right.
my friend. You have to come
Oh,
now. You can afford 47 euro for a Ryanair ticket
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and come here. But hey,
I'm not flying right now.
where are you based now? You're in Glasgow or in
No, I'm in Brighton. I'm
yeah,
down the
Brighton.
very bottom of England. Yeah.
Brighton, that's good. That's not
Yeah.
that far away. So that's
Yeah.
great. I think in Brighton is one of my old favorite hotels that I never meant to visit, but probably I can drop that. There is a hotel and they have a couple of theme rooms, like a pirate room, and there was a Durex playroom. And when I started that industry, I always said
Mm.
that is a fucking great idea of a clear promise, clear brand promise with a clear concept.
It's so two things on that. It's called the Hotel Peli Rocco,
That's true. That is absolutely correct.
and my flat looks at it.
Yeah.
I live on the square. But so my flat's here. I look at the Peli Rocco. So I'm always trying to see if there's naughty things going on, but I can never
Yeah,
tell.
come to my hotel in
Yeah.
Berlin. There's a lot of things to see. The people thought that in the courtyard that they asked me, "Hey, are the windows see through?" Because if they're inside and the light is on and outside it's dark, they use it as a mirror. So the reason why all the
Uh-huh.
construction workers always gathered was with the students came from the shower and stuff. Yeah, many stories to tell. Mark, thank you very much for this really 1 hour to be here. It was amazing having you, and I can't wait to meet you in person soon.
Thanks. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this episode and everything else that is going on at Smack with us by checking out our website at smack.media or connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time.
Wow, great that you're still here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And there's much more where that came from. Check out all of our content on our social media. You can just subscribe here below. Thanks, and see you soon.